Now, thinking about virtualization security, there are, just because you virtualize your data center doesn't mean you get away from security. There's no part of what we do that is not, in which you should not keep security front and center in your mind. Um, Accidental data loss. What happens if the power goes out? If you've got a software-defined data center, if you've got a data center of any kind, whether it's virtualized or not, you should have redundant power if possible, and battery backups, absolutely. If you can't have redundant power, that is, two separate power circuits from two separate power companies feeding your data center, you should at the very least have UPSs and good ones. Good ones that can talk to your type 1 hypervisors and say, hey, the power has gone out. I've got 15 minutes left. So you need to shut everything down. And then your your virtual machine manager or vCenter can talk to all the VMs and say, okay, it's time for you to shut down now. Just having power redundancy will help with that. Over and above power redundancy, for any significant drive array, you need to invest the time and the effort and the extra drive capacity to make fault tolerance possible. Whether it's RAID 5, RAID 6, RAID 1, RAID 10, whatever you need, do it. Take the time, spend the money, make it happen. Don't assume that any given RAID solution is best for any given any given application. In fact, what you might have is a mixture of RAID solutions. Say, for example, going back to the 630s. The PowerEdge 630s have 10 drive bays, hot swappable. There's 2 right together and then 10. What you could theoretically do is take a couple of smaller drives, say 100 gig or even smaller than that, build a host on one of those, and then make a mirror array of the 2 of those things. So the backup is so the other drive isn't storing anything, it's just keeping a copy of everything. If something breaks down, you break the mirror, you rebuild, you go. Or potentially even you pull the drives, you swap them, you push them back in, then you rebuild with a new drive. In any case, and then you could also have one or more, depending on the capabilities of the RAID controller in the device, one or more other kinds of RAID arrays in the same chassis with those other drives. So accidental loss, we solve that with fault tolerance. Insider data theft. The malicious insider, the best way to control the threat of the malicious insider is with good human resources or human organizational development policy. Background checks. I mean, serious background checks, as in, is this person up to his ears in debt? Because a person who's up to his ears in debt is probably more likely to be bribable, shall we say. If he just wants to get out from under that mountain of debt, he may do things that are dishonest to make enough money to pay off the debt. The other possibility is that you had an insider who wasn't malicious and then became malicious due to some sort of interpersonal strife. A promotion he or she didn't get, just interpersonal friction. Those are the things that you'll have to manage as a human being dealing with other human beings. Watch, and then, of course, close when someone leaves the organization, make sure that all the access they had closes the minute they walk out the door, if not before. Hacker attacks. If you're working for an organization which is using an SDDC, and your targets, your potential attackers realize, hey, it's a virtual data center, and I have a bunch of tools. There's a whole other layer of there are whole other courses about this. Perimeter. There's a lot of things you can do. Perimeter security, internal security, malware. Malware is another big one, which actually kind of goes back to your accidental data loss. whether the data is being stolen, um, deliberately exfiltrated, or just locked down, locked away from you, as in, say, a ransomware crypto attack. There's some things you can do to fix these. And we're going to talk about operational security, then how to deal with some kinds of hacker attacks, and then malware awareness. Now one way of dealing with your OPSEC is, or operational security, make sure you secure the host to make sure that only the people who need access to the virtual disk files can have it. It is not a good idea to give everybody their dog root access to your hypervisors. Physically secure them. Keep usernames and passwords secure. Avoid running a GUI on the hypervisor, because honestly, a Type 1 hypervisor, particularly in a data center application, doesn't need it. There are other tools. Isolate your console management activity. Put management on a VLAN of its own, and control who can get into that VLAN. So that, say, you have to be on a specific computer or VPN into a specific computer just to get to the right stuff. Now, at the higher end, make sure there's more than one person who has access, or who has to work to provide access, so that that level of the network is not available to everyone, and that B, someone else can always get into it if something bad happens. Always imply change management, change configuration policy. That's what we're really talking about there, is change management, and being intentional about how we rearrange an organization on the inside. Do some virtual machine monitoring. If you've got a virtual network, put up a virtual IDS inside that network. In terms of preventing your hacker attacks. Okay, and that actually, that's the end of this one. I'll get to hacker attack prevention in the next video. And the slides are going to be, number-wise, are going to be a little bit out of order, but don't worry about that. Thanks, and we'll be right back.